Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 24th Annual Virtual Martin Luther King Jr. Diversity Awards. I'm Hugo Tapia, the 2021 Human Relations Commission Vice Chair. On behalf of the City of Tempe Human Relations Commission, I am pleased to serve as your MC on this important day. We never would have imagined we'd celebrate these awards virtually again 1 year later, yet you're watching remotely and a few of us are gathered here at the Tempe History Museum. Normally, the Human Relations Chair MCs these special awards. I never imagined that I'd stand here before you to present them, yet I'm here, humble and honored to do so. Like so many other events, COVID has caused us to stay nimble and become creative. So we march forward with a program today that, though still virtual, is both inspirational and interactive for those of you watching from your devices. And as you will see today, COVID has not stopped the great work of those that spurred on change and growth in the face of adversity. Before we go any further, we humbly recognize that the city of Tempe's 40 square miles are the historic homelands of the Othon, Pipash, and their ancestors. Thus, I will read our city's official land acknowledgement statement. We wish to acknowledge that Tempe is the homeland of the native people who have inhabited this landscape since time immemorial. Anthropological studies document large and advanced ancestral Othon settlements located throughout the entirety of present-day Tempe and recognize the ancestral lands of the Othon, known as the Pima, Pipash, known as the Maricopa, and their ancestors as extending far beyond our community. This land continues to be spiritually connected to the Othon of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community and Gila River Indian community. The SRP, MIC, and GRIC, located northeast and south of Tempe, respectively, are confederations of two unique groups with their own languages, customs, cultures, religions, and histories. The Othon and the Pipash, both the Othon and the Pipash are oral history cultures. The landscape is sacred to the Othon and Pipash and reflects cultural values that are central to their way of life and their self-definition. Their oral history and song culture are indelibly tied to tangible places that are associated with specific historic, cultural, and religious values. Settlement patterns, advanced irrigation practices, and other lifeways driven by a deep understanding of and respect for the landscape and directly attributable to the ancestors of the Othon and Pipash, and serve as a template for the establishment of Tempe. We accept the responsibility of stewarding those places and solemnly pledge to consider this commitment in every action. Thank you for your attention to this reading. Now, if you're watching remotely, you got two options to enjoy today's program. You can stay right here where you are on Tempe 11 or on TV's Cox Channel 11 or CenturyLink Channel 8012. But if you'd like to be a part of the interactive portion of today's celebration, we encourage you to also jump onto Facebook by logging onto facebook.com/City of Tempe. Don't forget, City of Tempe is all one word. There on Facebook, you can use the comment sections to ask questions of our guest presenter, Dr. Cyan Proctor. And of course, cheer on our award winners. Again, that's facebook.com/City of Tempe. Now, would you like to peek ahead for what's coming next in our event? Miss holding an old-fashioned program on your hand? Visit www.tempe.gov/MLK to read today's digital program. Again, that's www.tempe.gov/MLK. On that website, you can read the program, learn more about this year's award winners, and even watch a brief video about Dr. Proctor. For those of you in the room, you have pen and paper to write your questions for Dr. Proctor, as well as a QR code that will link to today's program. When the Q&A portion of your event opens, just head on over to the microphone and you will be acknowledged. Okay? This year, we are so honored to celebrate the legacy and spirit of Dr. King by recognizing 9 extraordinary individuals and organizations in the areas of ongoing commitment, respect, and courtesy, courage, social justice, leadership, and inclusion. But before we get started, we must thank those that have made this year's event possible. TD Cinex, our media sponsor, and then our photography sponsors, the Tempe Officers Association, the Tempe Supervisors Association, UAEA, the United Arizona Employee Association, and the Tempe chapter of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association. Our media sponsor, TD Cinex, is a community of co-workers dedicated to helping the world do great things with technology. As a leading distributor and solutions aggregator for the IT ecosystem, TD Cinex cares about its partners, co-workers, investors, and the world around us. They're committed to being a diverse, inclusive employer of choice, and a good corporate citizen. As an essential and constant partner in the City of Tempe's diversity efforts, TD Cinex continues to put its values into action right here in their backyard, and for that, we are grateful. Also, if you didn't know, each year our MLK Diversity Award recipients have beautiful portraits taken, created uniquely for them and captured in places that either have a connection to the reason they received this honor or reflects a Tempe location they love. Award winners not only receive a copy of their portrait, but their portrait are also placed right here in the Tempe History Museum as an exhibit. This commemorative exhibition would not be possible without photography sponsors. The Tempe Officers Association is an integral part of the City of Tempe and was formed by the state certified sworn officers and sergeants of the Tempe Police Department, who are dedicated to improving the working conditions of its members, as well as actively involving themselves in the community. The association, which encompasses nearly 350 sworn officers and sergeants, is committed to looking for ways to improve the City of Tempe and provide for the safety and welfare of those they serve. The Tempe Supervisors Association works to fulfill the mission that the residents of Tempe have entrusted to perform. As a work group and as individuals, members welcome and celebrate a diverse workforce and community. They work towards open and trusting communication, both internally and externally, and pride themselves on customer service and the knowledge of a job well done. The mission of the United Arizona Employee Association is to organize, represent, and promote the interests of the City of Tempe non-supervisory employees. UAEA continually strives to improve its members' pay, benefits, and working conditions while defending city employees' rights to fair treatment, dignity, and respect. And the Tempe chapter of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association, member of the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF has been answering the call for more than 100 years, representing more than 326,000 professional firefighters and paramedics who protect more than 85% of the population in communities throughout the United States and Canada. Almost into year 2 of a global pandemic, it means more now than ever when companies and organizations extend beyond themselves to also remain financially committed to those events and people making our communities better. Thank you to these generous sponsors who continue to stand in support of the vision of Dr. King and this year's award recipients. Now, it's quite serendipitous how this year's program came together. It truly wasn't planned, but who better to kick off a program that features America's 4th Black female astronaut than a talented artist named Cosmic Cadence, prepared to be uplifted and moved by his words, inspired by Dr. King and relevant for today's ongoing call to action. Cos, please get us started.
So I want to say something really quick. Very grateful to be here, so definitely good morning to everybody. At 8 years old, God showed me a vision for my life, and that vision included moments like today. So I'm very happy to be here, standing on the shoulders of the legacy of Dr. King, because at 8 years old, when I saw that vision, I told God, no, I don't want it. Give me something else. Give it to someone else. I don't want the responsibility of having to stand in front of people and to have to lead responsibly, because people who have that kind of influence are assassinated physically and in their person. So I'm grateful to be here, having said yes, ultimately, to purpose, because what's for us is for us. We must accomplish what we were put here on the earth to do. That goes for everybody in the room. Happy to be here with the prospective dreamers who have dreamed themselves into reality, and all of those who are at home. I can make my dreams realities, live the mighty visions I have seen. I can make all of creation manifested self inside of me. I can make this life do what I want. I can make the whole wide world stand up. I can make this man's soul levitate on eagle's wings. Bring him into consciousness where action is a common thing. I can make this life do what I want. I can live my life amongst the stars. I can make this life do what I can make this life do what I want. You must project the image of life to the universe. I don't think you heard me. I said you must project the image of life to the universe. And stop expecting ignorantly these manifestations of destiny. As evidence favor from some alpha creator, you are architect of immortal design, and the world needs you to be alive. So be alive. Beyond the glass ceiling of your minds, be alive. You must project the image of life to the universe. And peer longingly outside at jet rocket plane and harnessed sound wave populated skies. Oh guys, but pay no never mind their seemingly featherless design. And rest assured, your wings thereon will fly if you'll simply be alive. Imagine the future generations trekking expeditiously behind. Imagine the feats they'll have to climb, the expanse of wild imaginings that'll populate their minds, carving new lanes their feet design. Picture their pride and the inspiration and progress on the merit of being aligned with such people, their equals, who before them pave ways to better days in which they themselves now find. They whom are among us and thus are us. We who show up if for no other reason than to show out in the 11th hour. My brothers and sisters, do not stifle your power. You are magic and the entire world needs you to be that. Mightier no sword than your intent. So focus consciously learning and process to follow your treasure map of purpose and do not relent. For littered our path with blessings when we surrender to our gifts. You want a better life? I dare you to try this. Let us grow allergic to excuses. Strive fearless toward execution. Nike nailed it on the head. It's more than a slogan. It's a call to action, y'all. Just do it. Just do it.
Thank you, Cosmic Cadence, for that thought-provoking performance. Wow. I know we got a great program in store with that type of kickoff. Great job. And speaking of a great program, I'd like to welcome to the podium Tempe's mayor, Mayor Corey Woods. Mayor Woods was elected mayor of the city of Tempe in March 2020. Prior to that, he served as a council member for the city of Tempe from July 2008 to July 2016. During that time, Mayor Woods was instrumental in guiding city policy that led to Tempe's perfect score in the Human Rights Campaign's Municipal Equality Index. He championed initiatives in the areas of affordable housing and human services while working tirelessly to improve community development standards to attract business investment and protect neighborhoods. As Tempe mayor, his priorities are affordable housing, community input on police reform, responsible economic development, historic preservation, and social services. In his professional career, Mayor Woods is the chief of staff at ASU Preparatory Academy, a graduate of the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He received his BA in political science and a minor in African American studies in April 2000. And in May 2018, Mayor Woods earned a Master's of Arts in Educational Policy from ASU's Mary Lou Fulton College of Education. Now, without further ado, welcome to the podium, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tapi. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the invitation to speak today. I was really moved listening to the reading of the Native American Land Acknowledgement Statement that was passed almost exactly a year ago. This statement recognizes and honors our Native people, while also ensuring we remember them in all of our future actions. This land acknowledgement statement clearly demonstrates the way our city is coming together to respect, value, and cherish the contributions of everyone in our community. We listen, we encourage even more opinions, then we take action, not just once, but as a standard. There's no looking back at the last couple of years without remembering the national and local activism toward justice and inclusion. The city of Tempe has been actively listening and working on new ways and better ways to ensure everyone has a seat at the table, receives equitable opportunities, and is valued for their beautiful differences that make our community stronger. We have listened, and we are responding with a resounding yes. Yes to crafting our land acknowledgement statement. Yes to a new community safety plan. Yes to more affordable housing that will provide opportunities for everyone who wants to make Tempe their home. And yes to a perfect score on the Municipal Equality Index for the 7th straight year. There is so much more to come, but first I'd like to take a moment to thank my council colleagues for their efforts to make Tempe a more equitable and inclusive place. So I want to say really quickly before I go on, Vice Mayor Keating really wanted to be here today, but for the reason, once again, while we're having this celebration virtually, he informed me this morning that he was around someone who had COVID on Tuesday, and while he tested negative yesterday, he wasn't feeling well this morning. So out of safety for everyone here and for himself, he made the decision to stay home. So I just wanted to make sure that I let people know that he really wishes he could have been here this morning, but I just wanted to make sure that he kept everyone safe. I also want to introduce all of my other colleagues who are here as well. We have Councilmember Robin Arredondo Savage, Councilmember Joel Navarro, Councilmember Lauren Kuby, Councilmember Jennifer Adams, and Councilmember Doreen Garland. We have shifted our thinking. We strive to keep equity first when we consider new programs, class offerings, facilities, and city resources. Our Parks and Recreation Department has taken a bold first step. Last year, the team developed a master plan to create standards for park amenities, sports fields, and recreation programming. This plan will be used as a blueprint for future park projects and program offerings. But before we start implementing the full plan, we are conducting an equity study to ensure that our parks and amenities are accessible to everyone. We want people to be able to walk through our parks from their homes. We want them to be able to get to their City League softball game quickly on an Orbit bus. We also want people of all socioeconomic backgrounds to be able to participate in our recreation programs. This study will help us learn how we can best offer scholarships as well as reduced fees. Income should not be a barrier to healthy living. Free fitness classes near home can build a strong, healthy Tempe. Our investment in youth basketball, martial arts, or yoga classes in all of our neighborhoods can help working parents get ahead and develop young leaders. This is the first component from the master plan to be accomplished by our Tempe Parks and Recreation team, showing how vitally important that we feel this is. In every way, we are implementing opportunities for everyone to be more involved. In November, we added a second opportunity for people to comment on issues being discussed at council meetings. Now people can speak directly to the Tempe City Council at both the beginning and the end of each meeting. This is frankly the result of a recommendation by Equity in Action, a group whose purpose is to increase the participation of underrepresented residents. We hope this second call to the public removes barriers that may prevent or discourage people from speaking out about issues they care about. Last month, the Tempe City Council unanimously approved and added the Crown Act to our anti-discrimination ordinance prohibiting race-based hair discrimination. Tempe is only the second city in Arizona to adopt this policy. Black women are 1.5 more times likely to be sent home from work due to their hairstyle. They are more likely to be passed over for promotions and jobs. And on average, they make 37% less than their male colleagues. That's not right, and no one should be judged for their curls or their braids or their natural hairstyle. Beyond adding the Crown Act to our anti-discrimination ordinance, we've resumed our free equal pay salary negotiation workshops. The next one is on February 16th. They're free and an excellent way of closing the pay gap that unfortunately continues to this day. Dr. King once said, "The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of the beloved community." And yesterday, the Tempe City Council took steps towards creating a more beloved community by voting unanimously to approve a measure that will greatly change the way we respond to nonviolent calls for service. We are working with Solari, a Tempe-based crisis and human service nonprofit organization, to help us route mental health 911 calls to the professionals best suited to assist a person in crisis, including Tempe Human Services Care 7. The commitment that Tempe police have made over the years to officer training is also exceptional. 100% of our Tempe police officers receive training in mental health and de-escalation. 65% of our officers have undergone additional crisis intervention training and are CIT certified. With full collaboration of the police department and Tempe Human Services, this new system is intended to reduce the number of police calls and increase the number of people who can benefit from crisis experts. I'm proud to be part of this Tempe community that cares about everyone, that puts people first, and looks for new, innovative ways to raise up those who need a little more. In his most recognized speech, Dr. King had a dream of a nation where all of our gifts and resources are held not for ourselves alone, but are instruments of service for the rest of humanity. I hope you will continue to work with us toward that goal. There's another person Tempe is proud to call its own. Dr. Cyan Proctor is herself a Tempe resident, a geoscientist, explorer, space artist, and astronaut. She was the mission pilot for the Inspiration for All Civilian Orbital Mission to space in September of 2021. She is also one of the Explorers Club 50 people changing the world. Her motto is Space to Inspire, where she encourages people to use their unique, one-of-a-kind strengths and passion to inspire those within their reach and beyond. She believes that we need to actively strive for a Jedi space. And by Jedi, I mean just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space as we advance human spaceflight. Let's watch more about Dr. Proctor and her work now.
The reason I started SpaceX was to get humanity to Mars. We want to try to make the dream of space accessible to anyone, and ultimately making science fiction not fiction forever.
What they're about to do will change the game entirely. 4 civilians are going to space. They will orbit the Earth for 3 days on their own.
You know, my dream of always wanting to go to space. I wanted to let you know that I got selected.
They start telling me about this all-civilian mission to space.
How many astronauts are going? And that's when she said, none. Haley was diagnosed with bone cancer.
I haven't died, and I'm not going to die.
Having cancer made me who I am.
My dream is to be a nurse.
I'm getting to show them what their life can look like after cancer. If I can do it, you can definitely do it.
I went upstairs after the phone call, though, and told my wife, I think I'm gonna ride a rocket. And she just, what?
I don't think I'll think about the worldly impact this mission is going to have until Chris is back on the ground.
I'm like, why would they choose me? Look at that. But my dad had instilled this idea in me that I could do anything.
I'm commander of Inspiration 4. No matter what, I'm a father first, and that comes with a great deal of responsibility.
What is the speed?
25 times the speed of sound, or 17,500 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's getting real.
Our mission to space had to serve a bigger purpose, which is why it's a $200 million fundraising campaign for the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
There have been 3 Black female American astronauts who have made it to space. I will be number 4.
Start thinking about what could happen and the risks that are involved.
These people are you and me, and they will kick the doors open to space for the rest of us.
This is where we're gonna live for 3 days.
Home sweet home.
Dr. Proctor. we welcome you to the 24th Annual MLK Diversity Awards ceremony. Please join us.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to sit here with you.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's amazing. We've had Cosmic Cadence say, where are our possibilities? How do we live? We have Dr. King say, I have a dream, and lots of kids say, I dream to be an astronaut. And here we are living a dream right now with you. It's interesting. I'd love to get us started, Dr. Proctor, because we are celebrating Martin Luther King and his celebration this weekend. And we know that when he did the March on Washington, that was in 1963, we hadn't even had a man land on the moon, let alone fourth Black female, not just astronaut, but pilot of a spacecraft. Can I get a woo? I heard that. Woo! Pilot of a spacecraft. If I can, Dr. Proctor, give you a couple of the words that he said in that famous speech. He said, I have a dream to let freedom ring. And he said, let it ring from hilltops and mountains and molehills. He didn't say, let it ring from space or from the moon. He hadn't even dreamed that. But I have one more video I would like to show that has you in it in particular and features you, that really speaks to what your dream is in living the dream that Dr. King talked about in that speech. You can join with us on your screen.
The day of launch, I'm going to be thinking about how my entire life has led up to this moment. I was born on the island of Guam, and the reason why I was born there is that my dad worked for the NASA tracking station. And so I feel like space has always been a part of me. When I got that call, that Zoom, and Jared was on there and he said that, you know, they picked me for the prosperity seat, that I was going to go to space with him and be part of the Inspiration 4, it really was like getting the golden ticket for Willy Wonka. Everything in my life finally came into focus, and I realized that it was all about this moment in time. I won the prosperity seat for Inspiration 4, and I did that not as a geoscientist or an explorer or an analog astronaut, which are all on my resume. I actually won this as a poet and an artist. We are striving for that Star Trek generation, that idea of a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space, or a Jedi space. I'm gonna be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft ever. And to me, that just blows me away. And I wanna encourage the next generation to dream that this is possible. And a Jedi space, that's what that's about. I'm Dr. Cyan Proctor, and I'm the mission pilot for Inspiration 4.
Dr. Proctor, can I give you another tagline? I'm Dr. Proctor, and I'm a space dreamer. I love it, I love it. Can you talk to us a little bit more about what Jedi space is and what that means to you?
Yes, you know, when I've always had a love of science fiction. And when I was a kid dreaming about going to space, there were no role models for me as a Black female. And it was interesting because when I think of who represented that for me, what comes to mind is watching Star Trek with my dad and Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura, and this idea of being able to be among the stars. And so when I got selected for the Inspiration 4, before I got selected, my motto had always been space to inspire, but through some of my training that I've had, we talked about, well, how do you become space kind? How do you, promote things that have value to you? And that's when I had learned about, Jedi, just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive. And I thought, well, if we're gonna go to the moon, Mars, and beyond, how do we make that a Jedi space? When we're talking about who has already gone to space, only 600 people in all of humanity. And the percent of people of color is extremely low. And so when we're thinking about access to this new frontier, how do we change that? But then, when I was thinking also more broadly about this idea of solving for space solves for Earth, and my motto of space to inspire, a lot of times people think when I say space to inspire, they think I'm talking about outer space to inspire. But really, I'm talking about this space, the space you inhabit, and how you use that to inspire those within your reach and beyond. And then when we talk about that space to inspire, how do we make that a Jedi space, a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space? Because if we can all have a Jedi space that we take everywhere we go, think about what our world would be like.
Thank you for that, because that was the question as I was thinking about Jedi space and using the word literally and figuratively. I'm thinking space, there's no way to leave a spacecraft, right? There is no way to actually step outside and take a walk when you need to create some peace and harmony. So I would like to ask, speaking of Jedi spaces, in tough spaces, what were some of the lessons that you learned, not being able to walk outside the door, but truly how to continue to pursue Jedi spaces even in a challenging time and confinement?
Yes, well, a lot of that goes to how you interact with others and thinking about crew cohesion. And what does that mean and look like? And when we're talking about crew cohesion, whether we're in a spacecraft with our crew members, or we're at home, or we're at school, learning what we call learning to play well in the sandbox with others. How do we do that? How do we have compassion and empathy? How do we learn to hear each other's voices and be able to mitigate conflict that might arise so that we can strive for that Jedi space? And these are tools that we have to think about at an early age. And so when I think about talking to schools and interacting with students, and particularly teachers and educational professionals, we talk about, well, how do you empower people to create a Jedi space? And when you're talking about that Jedi space for themselves, it's not just about themselves, it's about their crew, the people who are around them, and how they can negotiate empowerment to be able to be the people that we want to be, even in tough times. And a lot of that, I think, is empathy-based, too. So being able to hear and listen what other people are saying, but also having that empathy to put yourself in their position and see how their perspective is being impacted. And I think a big part of that, too, is ownership for your role in how things are moving forward.
It's so interesting because as we're talking about perspectives and the importance of unique perspectives coming from the City of Tempe's Equity and Inclusion Office, we talk about and promote the importance of diversity, the importance of inclusion. But here we are seated today listening to you and being inspired by you, but you have this unique lens yourself, which is being a person of color, a woman of color, Black BIPOC, which is Black Indigenous person of color, and a woman. And so how does that particular lens affect your scientific analysis or even your perspective? How did that color how you see the world, especially at this elite level?
It's been interesting because both of my parents growing up, my parents, half their lives was spent in segregation, and all of that comes with that. And so as I grew up, trying to have my parents wanting to protect me to some extent as a woman of color growing up in the United States, and thinking about how education plays a role in helping to create opportunities. And neither of my parents had college degrees. And so my father saw the way forward through education, that if we were going to break down some of these barriers, we had to do that by helping everybody become educated and being able to create opportunities for themselves through their knowledge, whether that was informal education, formal education, but really investing in lifelong learning. And I saw that in my parents, their ability to kind of manifest their dreams into a reality and providing opportunities for us, but then thinking about for us how we could do that through education. But it's not an easy journey, because, you know, when we walk into a room, people first, they see the color of our skin and our gender, and they immediately put labels on what we can and cannot do. And so this whole idea of always having to work harder than other people who don't look like us, and not step out of line, and be learning to blend in. You know, these were things that I was taught as a kid, not mainly through societal impact. But what I love about what my parents did for me is they never told me that I couldn't achieve my dreams. They always, even though there were no Black female fighter pilots, I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was a kid, you know, Top Gun and all of those things. My dad didn't care. He never told me that you can't do that, or, you know, there are no Black women who fly planes. He instead said, well, let's go to the model shop and pick out airplanes you want to build. Let's go to Civil Air Patrol. There's an organization that will help you if this is what you want to do. And they really sheltered me from a lot of the negativity that can be associated with being a person of color. And instead said, sure, you can do this, but you have to learn. You're going to have to have determination and perseverance, and you're going to have grit and you're going to have to really strive for what you want.
I'm so appreciative for those words, because you said lifelong learning. Mm-hmm. And I think for those that are here in the room and those that are viewing from home or work, this is a lifelong learning for us. Education doesn't just happen in a book. It happens when we have access to voices that are strong with perspectives like yours. I'm not going to be greedy and hog this microphone. As you all see, I have about 100 more questions. But what I will do is shift. I'll bring the microphone over to the stand. I believe we have questions in the audience for other people to learn, as well as we're taking questions from our Facebook, facebook.com/City of Tempe. So I will put the microphone in the stand, and let's get learning some more.
And I will say, while you're putting that up, that when we talk about lifelong learning, one of the things that I had to do was I had to become the mission pilot for the Inspiration 4, and I have my pilot's license. It's something that I finally got after I graduated from Arizona State University with my PhD. I thought I'll give myself my pilot's license. But I had flown a Cessna 172, 15 years ago. And so when they said, we want you to be the mission pilot for Inspiration 4, I was like, oh my goodness, how do I do this? But I instead of telling myself I couldn't do it, I had that lifelong learning, and I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out, And one of my messages is that don't give up on your dreams. I went to space in my 50s, and you think of your fabulous 50s, stellar 60s, sensational 70s. That lifelong learning and pursuing things all from cradle to grave.
I think I'm going to have my eager 80s. If that's where we're going, I'm headed on. You won't be able to stop me at 80. To jump us off, we do have one question from Facebook already. What advice can you share with women working in an industry that is primarily male-dominated?
Well, I have a lot of experience as a geoscientist. I have a lot of experience in that area. Part of it is I talk about determination and grit, but you got to find your authentic voice within that space too, and being able to negotiate what that looks like, and really valuing yourself and what you're willing to accept and not accept, and push those boundaries. And I think a good example of that for me was when I was getting my PhD at Arizona State University. It was a real struggle, and it got to the point where I was going to leave the program, and I had 3 advisors, and 2 were white male and 1 was a white female. In my entire higher educational landscape, I didn't have a single Black female science teacher, from kindergarten all the way through my PhD. And so, but what was interesting was when I went to, after having committed, 5 years to getting my doctorate, when I went to both my white advisors and told them that I was done, I was quitting, they basically just said goodbye. But then when I went to the female advisor, she shut the door and said, Absolutely not. You're now my primary student, and I am going to mentor you the way you should have been mentored. And within a year, I was done. She took me under her wing, and she really made Dr. Sarah Brem. I owe my becoming Dr. Proctor to her, because she understood the struggles that I was going through. And so when we're talking about being in that situation, I encourage you to, whoever that is out there that's listening, find your allies. And when you're struggling, and they don't have to be within your institution or where you're working, they can be outside of that. But I realize now the power of finding good mentors. And I found that later in life because I didn't have them growing up. But even now, I'm meeting somebody this afternoon, a brand new mentor who got recommended to me. And because we need that all the way through our lives. If we're going to grow and we're going to invest in this lifelong learning, is finding people that can support you and help you through these types of challenges.
Well, on behalf of everyone in the city of Tempe, thank you, Dr. Graham, wherever you are.
Hey, Dr. Graham, yes.
Next up.
Morning, Dr. Proctor. We're also very dignified here, but I am ecstatic that I'm getting to meet you today. Okay, now I'm back to being dignified again. When looking through your favorite telescope at home, is the experience different since making the journey out of space? And if so, can you tell us how?
Oh, that's a great question. In fact, I just got a brand new telescope. It's called from Unistellar. And one of the things is I'm so excited to use it because it brings me back to my childhood dreams of looking up to the stars and when I got my first telescope as a kid. But it definitely changes my perspective because it makes me want to go back. When I look through the telescope and I look at, the other day I was looking at the moon, and I kept thinking about how wonderful it's going to be when we put the first female footprints on the moon. And I think, wouldn't it be even more stellar if it was a woman of color? And thinking about why those kinds of things matter and the statement that makes. And if I was head of NASA, and if you're listening out there, we have the technology and the ability to add equity into the equation. If you've got 4 people or 2 people, however many that's in the spacecraft, build a platform that opens up and spreads out so 2 people can stand there and make that jump down, so that you don't have to make these choices, that you can send a white female and a black female or a person of color, and they can jump off together in this historic way. And I think that that's some of the things that we don't think about is how do we make those, and that's why I promote a Jedi space, right? We can do this if we are thoughtful.
Thank you for that, Dr. Proctor. I see we have one more question. We're getting tight on time. I know there's others out there. I vote in this democracy that we hold her hostage and ask more questions, but I know we have a program.
First of all, I would like to say thank you to the city of Tempe and specifically to Rosa and Jonay for bringing Dr. Proctor. I am so excited to be a part of this today. My question, Dr. Proctor, you're a geoscientist. How did you choose space exploration over research on Earth?
Oh, that's a really good question. And my answer is that I don't see them as being different from each other. There's no better planet than our planet, but I have one of my mottos is solving for space solves for Earth. And so when we're thinking about how do we take on some of the challenges here on Earth, and as a geoscientist, a lot of that has to do with resources. What are we talking about? Water resources, energy, food, waste, all those things. Well, when we talk about space exploration, it's all about efficiencies in water, energy, food, waste. And so as we push towards the moon and Mars and beyond, all of the things that we're going to be doing to make those technologies are going to be developed here on Earth, but they're also going to be used here to make us more efficient. One of the examples that I like to give is when we're talking about food. We we have the ability to feed everybody on Earth, that there's not a problem with food production. But what we have is a problem with food preservation and food distribution and making that equitable. And so when we think about, well, how does space technology tie into that? Well, you know, freeze-dried products have been made through space exploration. And so when we're talking about shipment of food around the world and whether something is fresh, when you take something that you pick halfway around the world and then provide energy to ship that water and nutrients to somewhere else and then call it fresh, well, instead, what we should be thinking about is how do we take the water out, leave it at its source, and ship just the nutrients and put it in a form that is now preservable up to a decade. When you think about places where we have issues with feeding people, we could create ways of providing food and nutrition through space technology. And so these are the things that I like to think about when we're talking about why solving for space solves for Earth in that same way. Particularly water resources too, and energy, all of those things coming out of the space technology. And our ability to broadcast and communicate and to navigate and all of those things, all of these things that we're doing with our cell phones, that is all because of our space exploration component.
Thank you for that, Dr. Proctor. What's amazing is we talk about health inequities. So some of the things that you're learning about the efficiencies, hopefully we'll be able to extrapolate those learnings and really create solutions to those disparate impacts in our health equalities right here on Earth.
I agree.
I love one last question for you. We'll wrap it up. We started with the words of Dr. King and how those words have lived on, and they will be words immemorial. You also, I believe, are speaking about words and words of truth and how words matter. And I think your words are going to be as important in our history as those we've heard over the years from Dr. King. Can you, I know you have a new book of poetry with a poem entitled Space to Inspire in there. Can you finish us up, Dr. Proctor, with Space to Inspire? And then right after that, we'll have Dr. Hugo Tapia back up to the stage. Thank you.
That sounds great. Thank you. And so, yes, I'm super excited that I'm self-publishing my own book of art and poetry that I've done over the last 2 years. And this is actually Space to Inspire is the poem that won me my seat to space. And so this is what I posted on Twitter, was me reading this poem. Space to Inspire. You've got space, I've got space, we all have space to inspire. That's why we dream of going higher and higher. But what is space if you can't breathe? Let's stop sucking out the air of our humanity. We have a moment to seize the light, Earth from space, both day and night. We have J for justice, to ignite the bold. We have E for equity, to cut past the old. We have D for diversity, to end the fight. We have I for inclusion, to try to make it right. A Jedi space to rally behind. A universal force so big it binds. Inspiration to change the world. A new beginning for us to hold. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about space to inspire for all of humanity. Science, technology, engineering, and math, sending us out on the explorer's path. But don't forget the arts, the heartbeat of time. Consider sending a poet who knows how to rhyme. So let us drop the mic and close the capsule door. But please make sure Dr. Proctor is on board. My space to inspire is what we need. Inspiration for all of humanity. Thank you.
On behalf of the City of Tempe and the Human Relations Commission, thank you, Dr. Proctor. I'm creating my Jedi space. And thank you for allowing us to glimpse our world through your eyes. You have indeed inspired us to not only carry on Dr. King's dream, but also to build and cultivate our own. If you like to learn more about Dr. Proctor's work and mission, visit her YouTube channel for some truly amazing videos. Once you enter YouTube's website, simply enter Dr. Proctor into the search field and it will take you right there. Trust me, her motivational content will help to unearth your hidden potential and spur you to action. Thank you, Dr. Proctor. What a ride we've been on, and we haven't even gotten our award recipients yet. They're up next. But again, we would like to express our gratitude to today's sponsors. TD Cinex, our media sponsor, and of course our photography sponsors, the Tempe Officers Association, the Tempe Supervisors Association, UAEA, the United Arizona Employee Association, and the Tempe chapter of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association. You made this possible. Thank you. Right before we introduce you to this year's Change Agents, we got another inspiring message for you from Congressman Greg Stanton. Enjoy.
Good morning, Tempe. I'm happy to be with you to commemorate the 2022 MLK Diversity Awards. Although we're not able to all join together in person today, I am grateful that we are still finding a way to come together to recognize Dr. King's leadership and legacy and its enduring reminder of the responsibilities we have to our neighbors. The responsibility to fight for what is right and to ensure that the arc of history does indeed bend towards justice. In just a few months, it will be 54 years since we lost Dr. King. His life's mission, one he fought for and died for, continues to be our North Star to end racial, economic, and social injustices once and for all. Dr. King set a powerful example for all of us, and he carried out an ambitious mission of sparking historic social change through peacefully protesting, organizing communities at the grassroots level, and using words, not weapons, to fight for progress. With that blueprint, he paved the way for civil rights advancement in his era, and we still follow that blueprint today to confront threats on those civil rights in our era, including the assault on the right to vote. Nothing in our democracy is more sacred than that right, and it's under attack here in Arizona and in state legislatures across the country. And it is our moral obligation and American duty to end this partisan attack on the ballot box. The John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act would help do that by giving the Voting Rights Act teeth again, but it's stuck in the United States Senate. We must keep following the example Dr. King set and not allow anything to stand in the way of advancing and protecting our civil rights. We must continue to make changes like this, big and small. It takes all of us. And Dr. King showed that anyone from anywhere can be a leader and make a positive difference in their community. As we pay tribute to him today, I'm proud to recognize today's amazing honorees. These inspiring and accomplished leaders embody Dr. King's legacy. Their selfless service to our community is an example for all of us to follow. And it will be people like them who make our communities a more just, equal, and welcoming place. Thank you for inspiring all of us to work harder, be better, and use our voice to change our community for the better. And thank you to everyone who made this gathering possible. I wish you all a meaningful celebration, and I look forward to continuing our work of lifting up and empowering our community for generations to come. Thank you.
On behalf of the City of Tempe and the Human Relations Commission, thank you, Congressman Stanton, for joining us today to help us honor those award recipients who carry on the legacy of Dr. King. Your words encourage us all to continue to unite as a city and community. Thank you again. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It is time to present our 24th Annual Interactive Diversity Awards, brought to you by TD Cinex. The MLK Diversity Awards were created by the Tempe Human Relations Commission to honor those individuals, organizations, and businesses in Tempe that have demonstrated a commitment to celebrating diversity and inclusion in Tempe. The awards are presented to individuals and groups in 5 different categories: individual, adult, individual youth, business organization, community organization, and educational organization. Today's award recipients are an excellent example of those who put Dr. King's words into action through their commitment to inclusion in our city. This year's award recipients embody these values in the work they do daily. We are so proud of the recipients and are honored to recognize them this morning. Can we please have our council on stage to help me present these awards and capture the moment? Our first category today is individual adult. The first recipient in the individual adult category is Lisbeth Bench. Dr. Lisbeth Bench lives, works, and volunteers in Tempe. She has enriched the performance scene in the city through her social justice-based performance interventions about sexual violence, reproductive justice, adultism, abolition, and the effects of colonization, racism, and white supremacy. She has a deep and lasting commitment to social justice as evidenced by her community work and academic specializations in women of color feminisms, disability feminisms, and carceral studies. She's an incredibly authentic individual who brings joy to all around through her compassionate, understanding, and caring demeanor. We will play a short video from Dr. Bench, who regrettably could not attend today, then welcome her guests who will accept this award on her behalf.
This is Lisbeth Bench, and I'm coming to you from Northfield, Minnesota, hence the big wool sweater and the fact that you're seeing this instead of me in the flesh with you. This award is meaningful because I don't know how many public displays of care and concern and regard that we necessarily get. And so to be able to receive this, and I have an incredible amount of gratitude to the people who have fundamentally shaped my activism, my scholarship, my artistry, my intellect, and, you know, it's Black feminist thought that I have to thank. I hope that this brings visibility to the everyday things that people are doing to humanize and rehumanize themselves and others, and the ways that people are really digging down and interrogating their relationships with the earth and all things around. Thank you so much. And again, I'm proud to have received this. I wish you all well.
Our next individual adult winner is Alison Porter. Alison Porter has displayed an extraordinary commitment to the people of Tempe and the state of Arizona. She has dedicated her life to public service and making her community a better place. Alison works fearlessly for more inclusive representation for the city. She spearheaded efforts to organize Tempe by building neighborhood teams. Not only have these teams fostered a new generation of local leaders, but they have also worked to connect the public with their leaders and inform Tempe residents on how politics at the municipal and statewide levels will impact their neighborhoods. Alison gives so much to others, even if it means getting little in return. She understands the struggles people face and will help at no cost. Alison Porter displays the same courtesy in her advocacy as MLK once did. Our final winner in the individual adult category is Jordan Wright. When Jordan was victimized in 2018, something sparked inside of him. When Red Friday happened, he marched alongside his teachers. When George Floyd was killed, he marched and knelt in solidarity with his brothers and sisters. Jordan has spoken with newspapers about his actions and advocacy, and has written the governor and his school board advocating for what will better him and other marginalized populations. Jordan faces challenges with courage to move mountains. He knows what is right and he speaks the truth. His ongoing commitment to widespread justice comes from within and spreads to others. Our next category honors the next generation of leaders, our individual youth. Our first awardee in the individual youth category is Lillian Flatman. She was born and raised in Tempe and has spent her entire life helping others. Her giving back is boundless. Trash pickup, making blankets for shelter animals, creating gifts to distribute for children in shelters, crocheting hats for premature babies born into addiction and their mothers, packing meals for Feed My Starving Children, planting trees and plants in parks to bring pollinators, and helping plant and deliver fresh produce to food drives. Most recently, Lily became the Tempe Peer Leader with Peer Solutions to help support the Equity in Action Coalition through the City of Tempe. She is helping to develop and distribute equity guidelines and training that can be applied to schools, government, and businesses. Our next individual youth winner is Denzel Pigardo. Since moving to Tempe, Denzel has had a major impact in his community. In 2020, he became a member of the Tempe Mayor Youth Advisory Commission and became the first ever communication chairperson. With this position, he was able to get the first newsletter approved and was one of the co-writers in its 2021 publishing. After reaching this milestone, he went on to join the Tempe Children's Cabinet and is part of their first youth representatives. Denzel is a full IB student who is also a member of Student Council and a senior class president, part of the Black Student Union, the webmaster of Key Club, and a member of the IB Club. As an empowered youth, Denzel gets the chance to go out and help others and spread the values of leadership, caring, and inclusiveness. Our final individual youth winner is Malaya Mccurvy. She is committed to Tempe's core values and looks for every opportunity in giving her time and commitment to the community. Malaya has built strong relationships with youth and city officials. She has volunteered for many years with the African American Advisory Committee. She has participated and volunteered with the Downtown Tempe Authority, and most recently she worked with the Arizona Career Development Center, located in Tempe, Arizona. Malaya is an active member of the Electricity Youth Leadership Council, YLC. This is a program that helps empower Black, Brown, Indigenous, AAPI girls, and genderqueer folks through technology, culture, and community to create safe and nurturing online and in-person environments for girls and youth to learn, grow, innovate, and lead. Malaya creates awareness by inviting others to be part of positive change. Our next award is in the business category. This year's award goes to Printing Specialist. With the COVID pandemic, Printing Specialists stepped up to make face masks for many organizations, including hospitals and fire departments, free of charge. The company is involved in Project Cure, the largest distributor of donated medical equipment to resource-limited communities across the globe, serving sick and dying in more than 135 countries. The company also supports the Salvation Army's Forgotten Angels program, collecting toys at the company's annual open house every December. Printed Specialists is a company that encourages all of its clients to volunteer and increase their community involvement and diverse efforts. Our next award in the community organization category, this award belongs to the Agc Collectors Club of Arizona. The Agc Collectors Club of Arizona vision statement is to share the joy of collecting African American collectibles as well as other collectible items. As a small organization, the same committed members do everything to make sure that others' programs, services, and goods which give back to the community are funded and supported. The organization highlighted the topic of hunger and homelessness for the 2021 club year. In response to the ongoing pandemic, the organization reached out to help those unhoused and confronting hunger by supporting Maggie's Place for pregnant moms and their babies located in Tempe. They also supported the Tempe Court of the Salvation Army to help provide food and other necessary items for people in Tempe. The club has also continued to support the food pantry of the Tempe Community Action Agency, Black History Month, and Juneteenth events. Since the founding of the Agc Collectors Club of Arizona in 1995, the organization helps children, seniors, single parents, and adults without regard to gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation. Our final MLK Diversity Award category is Educational Organization. This award recipient is the Tempe History Museum. Brenda Abney and Gary Newman, as a part of the Tempe History Museum, understand the need for diversity in the city of Tempe, how diversity unites us and makes Tempe a connected and better community. They are committed to making sure that the Tempe History Museum is a place where everyone feels welcome, that it is a place for ongoing education about all the history of Tempe, whether it be good or bad, and where all the stories of the Tempe community are told. As supporters of and advocates for the African American Advisory Committee, Brenda and Gary ensure that the stories of African Americans in Tempe can be shared with the Tempe community through increasing activities, programs, and budget. They work to bring diversity to the museum in all facets of programs so that those diverse experiences can make Tempe a better place and community. As we conclude this morning's celebration on behalf of the Tempe Human Relations Commission and the City of Tempe Strategic Management and Diversity Office, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Cyan Proctor, our sponsors, TD Cinex, the Tempe Officers Association, the Tempe Supervisors Association, UAEA, and the Tempe chapter of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association. And of course, we would like to thank each and every one of you for joining and interacting with us virtually. Your unfaltering support of our city allows us to all continue Dr. King's great work. Thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful